seem so much simpler to simply give up. You and I are still standing strong, proudly, confidently, with no hesitation to say, I am Hmong. Though many may questions that due to our semi-nomadic ways in the few last centuries, we have never had anything to truly call ours. I for one have been asking this question. I for one have been dreaming of the day when I can grab on a hold of something, anything that is purely Hmong, hoping, dreaming to myself how sweet it would be. But guess what? I'm not ready to be an Amish. As much as I want to be, as much as I want to retrace back and live the way my forefather has once lived, there is no way and or no how. There's no such thing. I can't do it. The homeland of our forefather no longer exists. Go back to Laos and you'll see our fellow Hmong dressing not in our traditional clothing, but more in modern style clothing. Go back to China and you will see Hmong people driving, talking on their cell phone, watching TV in their home. And thus this nostalgia of ours could still exist, despite how bad we may want it. Indeed, indeed it is too late to be an Amish. Please keep in mind that in order for something to remain viable, change must occur. That, my fellow Hmong, is something worth priding about. We, the Hmong people, throughout our history have known to be some of the best diplomats. Just imagine, ever since we left our motherland of China, we have to negotiate with the people in the area where we're moving to. Many of these people don't want us there. Without such skills, I'm sure you and I, including our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, wouldn't have perished long ago. Hmong culture has always changed to allow survival in each new environment where we settled. Here's another one. Another worthy element is the fact that we, the Hmong people, are some of the most creative and resourceful people. With extremely limited resources, we were able to survive, manage, and thrive in any and or all conditions, friendly and or hostile environments. Despite living in some of the most remote hills of Laos, many of our people were able to gain the highest level of education, be members of the royal family, raised from the ashes to become renowned leaders in today's world and today's society. Despite having to leave our worldly belongings behind with just the torn clothes on our back, having to escape the rapid, deadly water of the Mekong River with nothing more than the tools and things we found along the way, only to resettle in 40,000+ people in this confined 1 square mile camp called Ban Vinai. Quite frankly, no one in their right mind would find a group of people flourish in this type of condition. But guess what? We did. And one of our best known art form, and you guys, this is a keeper. This is authentically ours. The Hmong Story Club came about. Despite having to leave many loved ones behind, knowing that we may never see each other again, fleeing to an unknown world that's far, far away from our birthplace and our adopted homeland, we simply close our eyes and hope that the best, only to find out that this new land of ours is 100 times harder, more than that we could ever imagine. Having to deal with the strangeness of the language, learn new daily rituals and traditions, despite having shed many tears, having poured what seems like gallons of sweat and bled buckets of tears, within 30+ years, we have become the citizen that everyone had hoped for us to become. Our lineage has continued, and our way of life has once become somewhat stable and manageable, but more importantly, we flourish. Now, it is us who are holding ourselves back. There are no excuses, no one to blame but ourselves for the things we do and choose to do from this point forward. Yes, we can. And we did. My fellow Hmong people, please take a look, though it's kind of dark, please take a look to your right and to your left, behind you and before you. Take notice, in this very room are the future and the hope of the Hmong people. Great leaders will rise from here, and I'm sure will lead us to wherever we need to go. Be thankful for the people here as well as the people at home, plus the people who have sacrificed so much for us to get us to where we are today. For without them, without our mothers, without our fathers, I'm sure there is no you or I. In conclusion, I believe we must not mourn what is lost if what is lost no longer work or indeed harm Hmong youth and Hmong women. We must celebrate advancing Hmong culture, Hmong youth, and especially Hmong women. Just think about it. Why should we mourn the loss of settling? Why should we mourn the loss of living in a society where opportunity for advancements does not exist? Why should we mourn the loss of having to live in a grinding poverty? Why should we mourn the loss of the traditional role of the Hmong women, which often make less than men, which often cause heartbreaks in families, which hurt children? Why should we mourn the loss of starvation, persecution, and alienation? Instead of mourning these loss, we ought to celebrate them. However, do keep in mind that if something is important and it's accidentally lost, we must have faith in our future generation, for they will for sure to retrieve it, if it's worth retrieving. The Hmong, I believe, are a lot like the early Japanese American. When they first arrived in the United States, they would give all their kids American names so that they would be more Americanized. However, when these very kids are all grown up, they all give their kids traditional Japanese names because that is who they are. That is where their heritage, and that is where their cultural identity lies. I assure you, we shall keep what is good for Hmong, not only for what is good for the powerful few. We shall shed what is harmful. We shall learn what it really means to be fully Hmong. Lastly, I will leave you with this quote. While the environment has changed for many, and their major means of livelihood is different from that of their forefathers, they remain profoundly Hmong. This statement was written in the late 70s, describing our forefathers, and it was published in the book People of the Golden Triangle by Paul and Elaine Lewis. Just think about 30 plus years after, still ring the same tone. Thank you all for having invited me. You all have been the ideal audience. And if you, though I'm supposed to talk about Hmong art, if you want to know more about me or my Hmong art in general, you can visit my website. Thank you so much for inviting me.